Golden Iris Productions presents Missionary Family Adventures Beneath the Volcano, from the book by Mark F. Dennis. Introduction. This is the story of an American missionary family and their remarkable journey to Japan. It is a story of faith, family, adventure, and growing up between two cultures. It is the story of how an ordinary family from America found themselves living beneath one of the most active volcanoes in the world. The events you are about to hear are not fiction. They are real memories from a childhood spent in the mountains of Japan. They are stories of ocean voyages, mountain trails, train rides, cultural discoveries, and the experiences that shaped an entire family. To understand how we came to live in such an extraordinary place, we begin not in America, but beneath the shadow of a volcano in the Japanese Alps. Historical disclaimer. This series faithfully presents the writings and memories of missionary Dick Dennis. His observations about religion, culture, and society reflect his sincerely held evangelical Christian beliefs during the 1960s. They are presented in their historical context to preserve the authenticity of his family's story and are not intended as commentary on the beliefs of others today. Part 21. Around Asama. At the base of Mount Asama were Shiraito Falls, the lava beds, and the memorial marking the village destroyed by the great eruption of 1783, where thousands of people had perished beneath the lava, much like the victims of Pompeii. The hot springs were the source of the hot water for the hot spring baths, like Hoshino Onsen, where they liked to relax at on cold winter nights, and where the Japanese snow monkeys liked to congregate. Asama awakens. On February 1, 1973, Dan's 5th birthday, Mount Asama erupted for the first time during the Dennis family's years in Japan. The powerful volcano covered Karuizawa with black ash, scorched nearby forests with falling volcanic bombs, and blanketed rooftops and streets with sand-like debris. For the children, it was both an exciting and unforgettable reminder that they truly lived beneath an active volcano. The eruption left several inches of ash in gutters and scattered volcanic stones across the countryside. Roads became slippery, making bicycles and motorcycles difficult to control, especially around corners. During the following months, several smaller eruptions continued, coating everything with a fine layer of black volcanic dust that became part of everyday life in Karuizawa. Collecting Asama Ishi. The day after the eruption, Dick took the family to the base of Mount Asama, where they hiked through snow covered with black volcanic ash. Everywhere they looked were holes where hot volcanic bombs had crashed into the snow. The children eagerly collected these freshly fallen rocks, known as Asama Ishi, taking home as many as they could carry. Among all the rocks they collected was one enormous volcanic bomb, nearly 10 inches across, still lying in the hole it had made when it landed. The family proudly displayed the remarkable souvenir in the entryway of their home. Sadly, its life as a museum piece came to an abrupt end when one of the boys decided to use it as a bowling ball down the hardwood stairs. Digging into the past. One day, Dick took the boys to visit an archaeological excavation near the town of Mozawa. While exploring a nearby farmer's field, Dan and Tim discovered several flat stones buried just beneath the surface. As they carefully dug deeper, they uncovered what appeared to be an ancient stone floor, along with pieces of broken pottery that hinted they had stumbled onto something very old indeed. As Dan continued digging, he uncovered a clay pot buried upside down beneath the flat stones. The soil inside the pot was much darker than the earth surrounding it, suggesting that organic material had once been inside. The boys carefully removed the broken pieces, unaware that they had discovered a burial dating back nearly 4,000 years to Japan's ancient Jōmon period. Years later, Dan learned that the upside-down pot had been the burial place of a stillborn infant. During the Jōmon period, families often buried their babies in clay pots beneath the entrance or hearth of their homes. Archaeologists believe the broken bottom of the pot symbolized the child's spirit being released, so it could one day return to its mother's womb and be reborn. The boys carefully glued the pottery fragments back together until a nearly complete Jōmon burial vessel stood before them. After learning about the discovery, the local government asked the Dennis family to surrender the artifacts. Today, the reconstructed burial pot, along with photographs and other items from the discovery, is preserved in the Karuizawa Museum of History.
Lost Timmy. When little Timmy was only 2 years old, he proudly carried the leash for Juan, the small Pekingese dog belonging to the neighborhood dentist. While everyone was distracted for only a moment, both Timmy and the little dog suddenly disappeared. With forests surrounding the house in every direction, the family quickly spread out to search, fearing the worst. After nearly 20 minutes of anxious searching, a hiker appeared walking down the mountain trail, carrying a tearful Timmy, while Juan trotted beside him on the leash. It seemed the little dog had decided where they were going, and Timmy had faithfully followed. The family was overjoyed to have him safely home again, ending what had become a frightening afternoon.
A new baby arrives. On December 6, 1973, the Dennis family welcomed their newest member, Deborah Joanna. Her 4 brothers and sister were thrilled to have a new baby in the house. Dan was so excited when his father announced the news that Dick joked he thought his son might actually turn himself inside out from all the jumping and celebrating. Millie had planned to deliver the baby at Saku Hospital, nearly an hour from Karuizawa. On the day of a routine checkup, Dick also took Nathan to see a doctor because he wasn't feeling well. After Millie finished her appointment, she went shopping nearby, but as she returned to the hospital parking lot, labor suddenly began. Only an hour later, little Debbie was born. When Dick returned home with the wonderful news, Dan exclaimed, "I didn't think she was supposed to be born today." No one had expected it either. Looking back, Dick believed the Lord had perfectly arranged the timing so they would already be at the hospital when labor began, instead of an hour away in Karuizawa. Before Debbie's birth, he had shared with Millie the promise of Psalm 147, verse 13. "He hath blessed thy children within thee."
Not long after Debbie came home from the hospital, 13-year-old Mark was entertaining his baby sister by tossing her gently into the air while he lay on the couch. At first, Debbie laughed, but then she suddenly spit up all over Mark's face, filling his nose and mouth. Yuck! The summers of 1971 through 1973 became some of the most memorable years of the Dennis family's life in Japan. They were years filled with work, adventure, growing up, unexpected discoveries, volcanic eruptions, family milestones, and unforgettable experiences that would shape each of the children for the rest of their lives.
Part 22. Hiking in Japan. Taigert's Mountain. Every hike up Taigert's Mountain was an adventure. The steep trail climbed straight through the forest until it reached a grassy summit above the trees. From there, we could see mountain range after mountain range. On clear days, even snow-covered Mount Fuji appeared on the distant horizon. Just 4 miles away, Mount Asama constantly sent volcanic smoke drifting across the valley, sometimes filling the air with the smell of sulfur. Near the summit was a huge rock that projected over a 1,000-foot cliff. The kids loved climbing onto it, even though it terrified our parents. Dad climbed it too, often taking photographs from the top. Below the rock was a small cave that we were convinced housed a bear. No hike felt complete without daring each other to explore it.
Sunset Point. Across town stood another favorite mountain known by the missionaries as Sunset Point. The trail began with a swinging bridge high above a rushing stream. We always tried to shake the bridge while someone else crossed. After about an hour of hiking, the trail opened onto a broad plateau where the mountains stretched endlessly in every direction. It was the perfect place to watch the sunset. West of town stood Atagoyama, better known to the Missionary kids as Organ Rock. Halfway up the trail, towering columns of volcanic rock looked like the pipes of a giant organ. Below them stood an ancient grove surrounding a peaceful Shinto shrine. At the summit, another shrine stood beside a television tower, reminding us how old and new Japan existed together. Japan lies along the Ring of Fire, where volcanoes shaped the land for thousands of years. Mount Asama was one of its most active volcanoes. Dad dreamed of hiking the long mountain ridge surrounding the valley, and each year we completed another section, making our way across the mountains one weekend adventure at a time. Father and son adventures. Planning these hikes took careful preparation. Without cell phones, we depended on maps, payphones, and exact meeting places. Sometimes we'd wait in a small ramen shop, drinking green tea until someone arrived to pick us up. Those quiet conversations with Dad became some of my favorite memories. One autumn, Dad and I set out for Crooked Nose Mountain. Starting from our home, we climbed steadily until reaching the mountain ridge. From there, we looked down over Karuizawa. We could see Union Church, the tennis courts, our old home beneath Tigard's Mountain, and towering above everything, smoking Mount Asama. Walking along the ridge was much easier. Snow monkeys, foxes, and deer occasionally crossed our path, reminding us that these mountains were alive with wildlife. After about 30 minutes, we reached Sunset Point, rested for a while, bought dried squid for a snack, and continued deeper into the wilderness. Beyond Sunset Point, the trail became steep and isolated. There were no roads, no villages, and often no one else for miles. The path disappeared beneath thick forests, then reappeared farther ahead. Several hours later, we finally reached Crooked Nose Mountain, surrounded by nothing but forests and distant peaks. Kirizumi Onsen. That night, we stayed at Kirizumi Onsen, a remote mountain inn with no roads or electricity. Everything had been built from local wood and stone. Outside, a natural hot spring steamed beneath the cool evening sky, and sometimes snow monkeys joined visitors in the warm water. Dinner was unforgettable. We enjoyed sushi, tempura, wild mushrooms, bamboo shoots, and other foods gathered from the forest. Afterward, Dad and I relaxed in the outdoor hot spring surrounded by quiet mountains beneath a sky full of stars. It was the perfect ending to an amazing day of hiking. The next morning, we hiked several more hours until reaching an old dirt road. Soon, we found a small mountain village, then hitchhiked toward Usui Pass. Truck by truck, we finally made our way home through all 183 curves. It had been a challenging adventure, and one I have never forgotten.
To be continued. Memoirs of a Missionary, Bringing True Light to the Land of the Rising Sun, tells the story of my father, Dick Dennis, and his decades of missionary service in Japan. Drawing from his journals, prayer letters, and personal memories, the book records the challenges, victories, and everyday experiences of sharing the gospel while living among the Japanese people. Many of the events presented throughout this series are drawn from these first-hand accounts. If you would like to explore the story in greater detail, simply scan the QR code or visit the book on Amazon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this presentation, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this video with others. For more content, visit my 2 YouTube channels. Mark F. Dennis at Golden Iris Knowledge Quest, where we explore physics, cosmology, science, and emerging ideas about the structure of the universe. And Mark F. Dennis at Golden Iris Religion Quest, where we examine religion, spirituality, biblical studies, Jewish mysticism, and the history of religious thought. Your support helps these channels continue to grow,
and allows me to create more presentations, books, and educational content. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.